Hey there, Instagram and Facebook to it's the yoga group. I'm back. Hello. So I'll give you a minute if you want to join me live. The media is telling you I'm doing it right. And yeah, welcome back for the final installment, it turns out, in this May mood lift and shift that I've been allowing through. We've had 14 different days of tools that I see come from yoga and meditation that can help with mood, mind, and mental health. And then what I'm thinking I'm going to do next is transcribe some of what's come through here and let it become a book of sorts. So that's feeling good to see and allow, because I feel like this is important and that a lot of us are interested in managing our mental health more and exploring what we can do, what we can use, how we can approach ourselves and our lives in a way that's going to help us so that we can feel better in our moods, feel better in the mind, and have an easier time with things like mental health. And really all just so that we can enjoy life, right? That's just kind of the foundation of all of this, that I want more of us to be able to feel like we can enjoy the ride, feel present for the magic of life, and more so enjoy our inner experience, right? Because that is, well, it turns out that's where it all begins, right? It's like not only is that unavoidable how we're feeling on the inside, it's a huge part of how life goes, it turns out. And a lot of our health has to do with this mood, mind, and mental health stuff as well. Also, things like our relationships really get affected, right? As much less our projects, and are being even more in a position to flow into what we're here to do, how we're here to help. So, yeah, that's what I want us to be able to do with these approaches, to be able to use them to blend it into our psychology, to blend it into our practices and our perspectives in a way that empowers us and helps us feel more on top of the game of mental health, right? Wherever we're starting from today. So, and then if you haven't caught the previous days, or if you haven't gotten all of them, then I've been putting it all on a YouTube playlist, which you can find on my Facebook page, or if you want it here through Instagram, just send me a message through the direct message and I'll give you a link to the YouTube that you can follow and get the whole thing, okay? So today's tool really brings it all together. And it's this idea that I guess is kind of new for a lot of us Westerners, this idea that it helps to have a practice. And I was listening to Napoleon Hill this morning talking about it in a way that was more like it helps to realize that we have a system that we've chosen to view our lives through, to manage ourselves, to keep reformatting our perspectives and our responses, right? So whether we call it developing a system or realizing that we have a practice that we're doing, or even just seeing how we blend these practices into our lives as important. But I've come to understand that maybe this is kind of a new idea to the West, that in maybe more Eastern places of the world, and where we've gotten a lot of these systems like yoga and meditation from, that it was more of a cultural norm for people to have a personal practice, things that they were doing in their lives with their days with themselves that may feel like rituals, that may create sort of a rhythm to the day, and that are chosen for the individual. I feel, although with a lot of it probably in history, it's been more you catch it, from your culture or you have it handed down. But that's where I think nowadays more than ever, we have this choice and this realization that the more we're willing to personalize what we call our practices, the better it's going to help us, the better it's going to work for us. And that is in any of these realms. So definitely when you look at things like meditation and yoga, more than ever now, we see that there's a bunch of different ways to do yoga, right? And there's a bunch of different versions of yoga. And then if you even enjoy my approach that I'm bringing, that comes from my studies and learnings over the last 20 years, that yoga just means union or to connect or to join. So that's where we could say that anything that connects us is part of our yoga practice with ourselves. So it may include time on a mat, or it may not. Probably something that involves our body does become part of it, right? And maybe we've even argued that everything that we're doing involves our body because we're always in the body, right? So even tools like that, presence and the awareness and the attention and the breath and imagination and sound, nature, walking, a lot of the tools we've talked about are all forms of yoga. So that's really what I want to transmit in this program, that you can see that anything that you're doing that connects you is part of your yoga, and that as you're starting to realize that you build those things into your days, that you're developing sort of a practice for yourself, and that the more that you are willing to personalize it and really hone in on what does it for you. So it really could be anything, and it could be things that you read, it could be things that you listen to, could be about who you're spending your time with, it could be about more solitude, it could be about more time in nature, it could be about mudras, mantras, poses, meditation. That's another great place to look at. Like, there's so many ways to meditate, right? And I think a lot of us who are struggling with our desire to meditate, and actually whether or not we're meditating, that whole thing, we might look at, like, could we be more open about what we see as meditation? Could we be more personalized about how we decide meditating works for us? Because remember, anything can be a form of meditation. Like taking a walk is a great form of meditation. Time in your journal is an amazing way to meditate. Just sitting there with your cup of coffee, staring out the window, can be an amazing way to meditate. Or you might like to make it more of a traditional approach. And if you like really using things like chanting, if you like really getting into guided visualizations, there's all sorts of ways to do it, right? But to let yourself gravitate towards what really seems to reconnect you, and then to really see that that's just part of your practice that you're building in, that you're using with yourself, more and more, like every day, is going to help. And that's where I vote for the everydayness of things versus just waiting until we get to a point of breaking where we really notice we need it. But then too, we can use it. And we've talked about that through this program too, that you can use all of these tools preventatively. The more that you're building them in more like every day, better you can stay on top of the momentum of it all. Remember, it's all energy, and our attention has a power. Our focus creates more of whatever we're focusing on. So that's why we're playing with those tools even so much, right? And anything that helps us with those tools and helps us be more present, helps us re-choose our focus. And remember, also just choosing to be present and focusing on things that tune us towards how we do want to feel, right? And that's where, reading all the terrible news stories or watching the scariest movies or remembering the worst things may or may not tune you towards how you want to feel, especially in the mood, mind, mental health. So that's where some of your practices, your attention, your focus, your presence, remember, that's a huge one. So yes, so this is really the icing on the cake of it all, is this idea that having a practice, things that you're doing in your life and your days that reconnect you, is going to be one of the things we learn from yoga and meditation that may be new to some of us. And that also you can see it as like a system, like Napoleon Hill says, that you're developing a system for how you handle your life and handle yourself. And sure, that's where it also comes into like your spiritual perspectives. If you like feeling spiritual, and if you really do feel a sense of that in your life, then just building more of that in, focusing in on that, reading things that connect you with that perspective, listening to things, doing things, being with people that help you remember that, you can see is a huge part of what you can be going for with your yoga, right? Remember, yoga union, heck yeah, it can be about your union with spirit or God or your higher self or your heart or your soul. And you can imagine how if you're doing more of that as part of your practices, as part of your systems, as part of your days and your lifestyle, that you could imagine how that might affect your mood, your mind, and your mental health if you're remembering your spirituality more and building that in, right? If that's something that you like, right? If that's something that resonates with you. So, yes, I'm hoping that you can start to see the power of having a practice, whether or not you get on the mat. But yes, adding in some personalized mat practice is the bomb for tuning us quickly and efficiently and awesomely every day. And yeah, and I love that, that's what I get to do with my yoga therapy practice in working with others, is help you connect with the tools that work for you, help you hone in on which ones to use, especially with the mat practice and the meditation. And yeah, but really to help you own it, that you developing a system for how you're taking care of yourself, how you're managing your energy, how you're managing that mind, the mood, the mental health, how you're boosting it, how you're lifting it and shifting it. Remember, we have in the title of this, yeah, the power of building in a practice, a lifestyle that feels like a practice, and personalizing it too, really honing in on what works for you, what's best for you, and letting it evolve too. That there may be parts of you that want new and different ways to connect, and then it may be always growing and expanding also, or go back to old things that have worked for you that you might have dropped. So yeah, hoping that makes some sense for you, maybe add some help for you. And yeah, I'm here if there's any ways that you could use support in building those practices, right? Creating those systems and doing it in a way that really works for you, and that can be every day, but not necessarily hours a day unless you want that. It can be super efficient too. Super efficient, especially when you hone in on personalized with all of these and what you can do every day that's going to make some huge differences. Yeah, super awesome and powerful, and lots possible. So I hope this feels empowering to you and exciting, even of what we can shift and lift and manage and improve and even enjoy in these realms, right? What a concept. So, all right. Love you all so much. Thanks for being with me on this. Namaste.